You know, something really interesting is happening to the way we think about work-related travel. That old hard line between the boardroom and, say, the beach, well, it's getting super blurry. And out of that blur comes this powerful new trend called Bleisure. It is changing literally everything, and we're going to break down exactly how.
And just to give you a sense of scale here, look at this number. We're talking about $692 billion. That is the global spend on bleisure travel for 2024 alone. Yeah, this is not some tiny niche market. It's a massive economic force.
And believe it or not, it is just getting started. The market is projected to explode by an incredible 500% by 2033. So this isn't just some passing phase for a few people with laptops. No, this is a full-blown revolution in how we approach our professional lives. So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the boom itself. Then we'll meet the new bleisure traveler. After that, we'll see it in action with a perfect case study on Mallorca. Then we'll dig into the business side of things. And finally, we'll talk about what this means for you in your future trips.
All right, let's dive right in with the bleisure boom. I mean, how did we even get here? Let's unpack what this concept is all about and the crazy growth that's behind it.
So the word itself, bleisure, is pretty straightforward, right? A mashup of business and leisure. But it's so much more than just tacking on a couple of vacation days at the end of a work trip. It's about seamlessly integrating your life with your work. It's this whole idea that a trip for your job can, and honestly should, enrich your personal life too. And wow, you can really see that momentum right here. I mean, the market is set to jump from $685 billion this year to over $760 billion next year. And by 2032, the forecast is over 1.7 times trillion dollars. That is not a gentle curve, my friends. That is a rocket ship, showing just how fast this is becoming the new standard. Okay, so who exactly is in the driver's seat of this rocket ship? What does this new bleisure traveler actually look like, and what are they demanding when they're on the road? Now, you might think this is all the millennial or Gen Z thing, right? But the data tells a much more interesting story. Sure, millennials are leading the pack at 38%, but look at this. Gen X and boomers are right there with them. This shows that deep desire for better work-life integration, it's not a generational quirk, it's a movement across the entire workforce.
So, what do they want? Well, their demands are a perfect reflection of this hybrid life. On the one hand, you've got the non-negotiables for the business part. Rock-solid Wi-Fi, a decent place to actually work. But just as important are the leisure elements, things like flexible checkout times, access to a good gym or a pool, and being close enough to soak in the local culture. And here's a big one, family-friendly perks, because why shouldn't you bring them along for the adventure?
And this brings us to our case study, a place that just perfectly gets it, the Mediterranean island of Mallorca. Let's take a look at why it's basically becoming the blueprint for the ideal bleisure destination. I mean, this quote from Luxure just nails it. The magic words here are world-class infrastructure, right alongside vibrant culture. That's the secret sauce. That's the perfect blend a bleisure traveler is looking for. And you can really see that beautiful balance in action here. For work, you've got these sleek, professional hubs in Palma with all the connectivity you need. But the second you close that laptop, boom, the leisure side kicks in. The key is that these two worlds aren't separate. They flow into each other. A super productive workday can roll right into a sunset sail or tasting local wines. That seamless switch is what makes it a blueprint for success.
Okay, let's flip the coin for a second. With employees all over the world demanding this new way of traveling, how are companies supposed to adapt? This is where good policy meets real-world productivity.
So, the really smart companies, they're not fighting this. They're embracing it and putting a framework around it. A solid bleisure policy really comes down to 4 key things. First, you've got to define the boundaries. When exactly are you on the clock? Second, you need super clear expense guidelines. Third, what's the duty of care? Who's responsible for what during the personal part of the trip? And finally, who's eligible? Getting this stuff right makes it a win-win.
So why would a company even bother with all this? Well, the pros are pretty huge. You get happier, more productive employees. It shows you actually care about their well-being, which is a massive deal for keeping great people. But yeah, the challenges are real. Your policies have to be crystal clear, and you've got to be on top of your expense management. It's really about striking that balance between investing in your people's happiness and watching the bottom line.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, the rise of bleisure isn't just about changing flight schedules, it's changing the entire value proposition of a business trip. The future of business travel, it turns out, is deeply personal.
And that, right there, is the core idea.
For decades, all we talked about was work-life balance, like they were two enemies on a seesaw you had to keep perfectly level. Bleisure is about a shift to work-life integration, where you weave both into something richer, something better. It finally recognizes that a happy, inspired person is a better employee. Simple as that.
So, we'll just leave you with this question. Your company is already paying to send you somewhere, maybe somewhere amazing. Shouldn't that trip be for you too? An opportunity for you to grow and explore? Well, Bleisure travelers all over the world are answering that question with a loud, clear yes.